Hello there. Hello there.
At last, where have you been?
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Master Skywalker, there are too many of them. What are we going to do?
This is where the fun begins.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, one and all, to the extravagant, the extraordinary, the wonderful Jedi Eternal, a Star Wars podcast. Here we are on episode number 54. I think that's what it is. Number 54, and I'm your co-host, Braxton Taylor, here with Andrew, who was once a gambler and now he's a drinker, Bolin. Last episode, I was doing it. He was going to Nevada, so I called him a gambler. Now he's a drinker because I brought him one and only a Wild Bill's Beautiful Rocky Mountain root beer. So, very long story, but Andrew and I love a good Comic-Con. And long story short, Wild Bill's was like this really awesome little store. Like, I don't even know what they call this, like vendor, I guess, at the Comic-Con. And had a huge barrel for a booth. And he made his own root beer. And he recently started canning it. So I brought Andrew one and relished in the good BO smelling Comic-Con memories. So yeah. So anyway, Drew, how's it going?
Are you done?
No, I mean, I have an entire podcast left to go, so no, I'm not.
Yeah, no. Taking a big sip of that root beer brought back so many memories, and I could see all the sweaty people just all around me, and that wonderful smell of BO and and dust and grime.
Like not showered for several days or weeks.
And it's wonderful.
I love it.
You wouldn't have it any other way.
No. If it was a clean Comic-Con, I don't think it'd even be worth going. So
I mean, that'd be a waste of time.
It would be, but it is good. We do plan to go on Comic-Con sometime soon, hopefully. But till that time comes, we're excited to be here back in our studio.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're in a really awesome studio right now.
Hey.
Cough, cough.
Watch your mouth.
Hey.
It's been an interesting couple weeks.
It has.
We have not had an episode in a while. But we're back, and we have a lot of news to catch up on. A lot of news, a lot of rumors for you guys to discuss. Now, we're not doing a main topic because we have so much to talk about in news that it's going to take up some time. So
yeah, exactly.
But lots of good things, and just before we get into the news today, I do want to mention that we are now less than a month away from May the 4th, which is what we like to call Star Wars Day.
Oh yes,
and just like last year, we will be having a live celebration of that. We'll be live streaming. We do not have all the details of what exactly that will consist of. And that will come as we get closer. But you can guarantee we will be live streaming that evening, having a fun time, and we'll just be hanging out with you guys. So go ahead and just set that in your calendars, May the 4th. I believe it's a Tuesday night. Yeah, so that's kind of weird, right? But still, hey, we'll have fun for a while. We'll go to bed.
Yeah. Some of us, unfortunately, earlier than others, but whatever. All right, so before we get into the news, I do want to just give a few announcements, a few shout-outs, do things like that. So first and foremost, I just want to remind everybody that we do currently still have our Jedi Eternal 2.0 fundraiser going on right now. That's still active. It still probably will be indefinitely. And we just wanted to boost that. If anybody would love to support us, we've been kind of on and off over the holidays and stuff like that, and we understand that. We're very sorry for that, but we obviously do plan on being back as strong as possible. We do plan, in the very near future, to start working on some gaming videos and things of that nature.
Yeah.
But again, all of our growth and all of that's going to be dependent on our funds, unfortunately. That is unfortunate as it is. So we wish we could just manifest it out of our desire for Star Wars, but it just doesn't happen. So if you want to support us in that way, we would love for that to happen. Of course, we do have our merch out there as well. All of those links are on our link tree, and you can find that on Instagram and Facebook. So we would love for you to support us in that way if you want to. If not, just continue listening, liking, sharing, doing all that good stuff, commenting, and we love that just as much. One thing before we move to news as well, I do want to give a shout out to Dylan Goller. I apologize if that's not how you say your last name. Dylan. But long story short, I met Dylan a while back at a youth function for our church, and he really likes our podcast. And he has a blog that he has on, I think it's Quora.com. And long story short, he shouted us out on there, and he's gotten, he's basically saying, hey, people, come and support us. So Dylan, we going to give you
cool.
some great appreciation on that.
Thanks,
so
Dylan.
thanks for giving us the shout out, man. So without further ado, let's get into our scheduled programming. So very first on our news this week is Ronin, an original novel inspired by Star Wars Visions, is announced. So Ronin, pretty cool. Like I said, in case you're not familiar, Star Wars Visions is a conglomeration of Star Wars animated movies, shows, whatever it is. It's going to be at the end of this year, and it's going to be anime, kind of that anime style and inspired by anime. It's actually supposed to be made by all the best anime creators in Japan right now. So that's going to be really cool. Obviously, Ronin, if you are familiar with that culture at all, is kind of like a rogue samurai. So that's going to be pretty interesting. I'm not sure what it's going to have, what it's going to deal with, but Drew, do you have anything more on that for us?
Yeah, so they're saying that it's coming out October 12th. It's an original novel. And it's inspired by one of the animated tales that's in Visions. And they said, just to be clear, this is not a novelization. This is an original novel. So I think by looking at the date here, we can assume that Visions is probably going to be released sometime close, right?
I would imagine so, yeah.
I mean, they do it differently depending on what it is. Like sometimes they release books before the show or movie comes out and like preparation, but sometimes they release things after.
Right.
And so I'm not sure if this will be before or after that, but I would assume it's going to be somewhere close to that October 12th date for this book. I think it's great that they're releasing a novel for this. I mean, why not, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
why not?
I think it's cool that they're doing that. So we'll see what it ends up being.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'd be really cool one way or another. I think it's going to be cool to have any kind of new Star Wars content. And for anybody that's like me who does like anime and stuff like that, I'm sure it's going to be a blast. I guarantee it. And I've heard speculations that Visions is supposed to come out in December, so that would kind of correlate. I would imagine it might be even a little sooner than that, and we're closer together, whether it's before or after. But it will be interesting to figure it out. So
yeah. All right, moving on to our second story. Our second story is we now know the Obi-Wan Kenobi cast. Now this has been out for a little bit.
Yeah.
Most likely a lot of you that care about this and are listening probably know about this.
Which we posted on our
right,
Facebook.
But we haven't actually discussed it, so we're just going to talk about that a little bit. But some of these will not be a surprise to you at all. For example, Ewan McGregor.
No way.
Hayden Christensen, which we already know about.
Yeah.
We have Joel Edgerton, who played Owen, and we have Bonnie. I don't know how you say her name, but she was the one who played Beru in the prequels. So we're having them back, of course. Again, not really surprised. We kind of expected they'd be back, but it's still a nice confirmation there. But then we have a lot of new people too. Moses Ingram is one that a lot of speculation going on about her role. Some are wondering if maybe she's going to be a young Ahsoka for flashbacks. Which I could possibly see that. Some think maybe she's going to be one of the Inquisitors. Yeah, exactly. And we'll talk a little bit more about why some of that speculation is going on later in our rumor section. But we have a lot of great actors and actresses that are going to be in this. You can go check out our Instagram or Facebook if you want to see that full cast. We're not going to name every single one of them here, but again, they're things are becoming real with this, and that's what's most exciting. Stuff's
actually coming out, being announced. Yeah, that's super exciting.
To actually see the cast is a big deal, and
awesome.
I'm so excited about where this goes.
Oh man, I there's not even words to say. I mean, obviously, I know I'm speaking on equal terms with you. I know you understand, but it's just for those of you who are listening out there, we are die-hard Kenobi fans. Like, he is our favorite character in this Star Wars saga, and always will be. So this again is like peak entertainment for us. We're super excited. Now, a lot of people have speculated as well, and kind of rumored and theorized that Liam Neeson might be coming back as Qui-Gon Jinn. Of course, that was not confirmed in this most recent casting drop. Now, with that said, there still are rumors though, and I'm not going to get into anything because this is our news section. But there has been a new rumor, basically a new piece of media, because I'm not even going to say it because I don't want it to be a spoiler just in case, but there's a new piece of media that's come out that has heavily nodded to the fact that he might be in the Kenobi series. So I'm not going to go into that further because it might be spoiler and it's just a rumor. But anyway, point is a lot of cool stuff is happening, and I'm super, super excited to see what's going on with the Kenobi series as it moves forward. So now let's see. Go ahead, sorry.
Well, I just wanted to say, like, I personally think, you know, if Qui-Gon ends up being in this, that's going to be one of those things they want to leave as a surprise, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So that's going to be one of those surprise reveals because they don't want to show everything right at the beginning. That's part of the magic of Star Wars. Some of those surprises, and having Liam Neeson back as Qui-Gon Jinn after all this time is one of those moments that's going to be a big hype moment.
Oh man!
And so they're not going to tell us. I mean, they'd be crazy to tell us if he's in it. Someone now, like Hayden, you could argue Hayden Christensen would be the same way, but Hayden Christensen is more of I feel like you just have to know he's in this.
Well,
right?
Here's the thing, and this is something that you and I have talked about previously on this topic when this first came out, is that here's the difference, right? Vader is going to be a large part of this series. We just know that. He's going to be a large part. He might be in like almost every episode, potentially.
Right.
But with Liam Neeson, it very well could be maybe like a 1, possibly 2 episode max, and he may not be even throughout the entire episode. So it would make more sense that if it's a surprise thing, that it would just be kind of secretive because he's not even a part of the true cast, you know what I'm saying? So it just makes sense that way. So.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so our next piece of news for this week is that the Bad Batch, so the upcoming animated series that's going to be kind of following the events of Season 7 of those new characters that we saw in Clone Wars, the Bad Batch will begin with a 70-minute premiere. Why couldn't Mandalorian follow this, right? But starting with a 70-minute premiere, and furthermore, it has at least 14 episodes, but possibly even more than that. So those of you who are excited about Bad Batch, which, I mean, I'm not like crazy hyped, but I'm somebody who is very excited to watch any, like I said, new Star Wars content. And following the animation style of Clone Wars, I think it's going to be a blast. But fact of the matter is we're getting a lot of it right away. With 70-minute premiere and with 14 episodes, so I'm pretty excited about that. What do you think, Drew?
Well, yeah, the 70-minute premiere, that's awesome.
Oh yeah,
I mean, I'm all about that, like having an extra long episode, and I mean, a normal Clone Wars episode is what, like 20
minutes,
22
20
at the most.
Yeah, and
we're getting a 70-minute first episode for Bad Batch, and based off what the so based off what hold on, so I'm trying to find out exactly who it was. The composer, Kevin Kiner, he revealed in an interview that he was working on episode 14 right now.
Okay.
And so if you look at it that way, there's at least 14 episodes.
14, yeah.
Unless he's got his numbers wrong, but you would assume he doesn't.
Yeah, exactly.
So I would think it's fair to say this might be kind of going back to the original Clone Wars, or not original Clone Wars, but the beginning seasons of Clone Wars where you were getting 20 like 20 episodes.
Right, yeah, exactly.
So if we're possibly getting 20 episodes of this season alongside a 70-minute first episode,
man,
it's a lot of content.
It's a lot of content, and I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
I think that sounds great.
Oh yeah,
give us a big long span of Clone Wars. Mm-hmm. Weekly with 20 episodes. Mm-hmm. That's going to be wild.
It is. It is.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm excited for that.
and that will, and potentially, if they do it right, we're talking. Okay, let's look at it this way. Let's say there's 20.
Right.
So
one a week.
One a week.
Like 5 months. Because about 4 weeks
right into Visions,
and then
leading right into the Book of Boba Fett.
Which it makes sense. It makes sense.
There could be a couple weeks break somewhere in there, but like for the most part, they could be leading into us having more new Star Wars content for the rest of the year.
Yeah,
and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was. That's exactly what I was going to say. I think that they're planning that to where it's going to last, or it's going to extend out until the next piece comes, which will be either Visions or Book of Boba Fett.
Which we know. We can look at what Disney Plus has been doing with MCU, and kind of see a similar pattern there, where they have, for the most part, they're continuing to keep this MCU content going almost consistently, with a couple of exceptions of a break of like a week or two here and there. And now things have been kind of thrown off due to some date changes, but like for the most part, they're consistently keeping new content on Disney Plus for MCU. And I think they're probably kind of following that same, or wanting to get to a point where they can follow that same thing with Star Wars and give people a reason to continue to keep their subscriptions.
I mean, come on. Yeah, okay. So it just makes sense economically for them. Like, I know as soon as Mandalorian quit for the first time, like, I just unsubscribed from Disney Plus because I had no reason.
Well, yeah, you weren't going to use it for
I had no
anything
reason.
else.
But now, like you said, now that we're getting weekly content from Marvel, from Star Wars, from all this different stuff, it only makes sense to keep it, right? So
exactly. And if everybody keeps it, that's a lot of money in their pocket.
A lot of money.
So, yeah, I definitely think that's where they're headed, and I'm all for it. You got anything else you want to say about that?
I do not.
Okay, now some bad news.
Wait, I'm just kidding.
I
want to stop you because I don't want to get to this part.
Actually, were you supposed to? I think you were supposed to read that one.
I just read the Bad Batch one. So.
Oh, you did?
Yes. So Lego.
I'm confused.
Oh, no, just read it. I don't want to read it.
Okay. Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga has been delayed.
Yeah, this is really disappointing. Honestly, this is really disappointing. This is something that we were like banking on heavily. That's going to have the spring 2020 launch date, and I remember Andrew sending it to me like almost right on the date of April 1st, and I was like, "Dude, if you use this joke, I'm going to punch you." It wasn't, but it was very disappointing. It was very disappointing to hear.
Yeah, so basically they said they need more time.
I mean, I get it,
and they're not going to be able to make the intended spring release date. They'll provide updated launch timing as soon as possible.
See, and like here's the thing, and this is something I've said a long time. I will always support a game developer that recognizes that they have a subpar product, and they say, hey, we recognize this is important to people, that people want to play it, they love it, like it, wants more of it, and therefore we need to take our time and really work on this. And I get that. I wholeheartedly back that, because this is a big deal. I mean, people are like, oh, it's a Lego game, but I mean, it is the culmination of the entire Skywalker saga. I mean, for a lot of people like you and I, we grew up playing these games, and so it is a big deal that every single movie 1 through 9 is being represented in this game. It's going to have all the newest technological enhances for Lego games. It's going to be awesome. Yeah. So it's important to us. I get it. The only thing that scares me is the fact that they don't have any indication as to when this is going to come out.
And why?
And
why
exactly?
Why is that?
Exactly.
I mean, if they went from saying this is going to release sometime in spring to not,
we don't know.
And that's really interesting to me.
Something had to change, or whatever that may be.
Yeah, I hope there's not big issues going on in the background.
Right.
But like, because I personally feel like a safe bet would just be say this is now releasing in the fall.
Right.
But the fact that they won't say that makes you wonder: is this going to get pushed back to next year?
It better not. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, wasn't this originally going to be released?
I thought
in fall of last year. Yeah. Wasn't that the original plan? I can't even remember.
I'm fairly certain that
it's been delayed a couple times, I believe.
I mean, why not ride off the wave of episode 9?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So now we're sitting like over a year plus of it being out and stuff like that. Or, well, yeah.
So anyway, more than that, yeah.
So point is that, I don't know. At this point, they have no reason to like push it out now. So it's kind of like they can take their time with it. So
yeah, I think, like you were saying, this is an important release to me. I think there's I think this needs to be really good. And
100%.
And so, if they have to take more time, so be it. I'm never going to be somebody that's screaming at them to hurry up, because I get like rushing a game never works out well.
Yeah, we've seen that
Cyberpunk.
firsthand. Yeah. Sheesh.
Don't rush your game. Take your time with it. Let's make sure it's the best possible thing it can be. But with that, like, be honest with us and just be clear about like what's going on. That's the only thing I ask from a developer is like, just kind of let us know what's
what
going
the status
on.
is.
Yeah, what the status is.
There's no need to hold all these pretenses and get everybody's hopes up, and then all of a sudden just pull the rug from out underneath them. I don't know how you can say that, but then and then leave them sitting on the rear end and disappointed. All the while you could be like, as we're approaching this day, we don't know that it's gonna happen, but hold on, give us the updates, and I think we would appreciate that a lot more. So
yeah.
So very important game. Super excited to play it whenever it does come out. So hopefully, we had the sad news, but seeing kind of the light at the end of the tunnel, hopefully that means it's going to be even better game than it would have been. So
I truly hope so.
I agree. So let's move on to our penultimate news piece today, and that is Star Wars Thrawn Ascendancy Trilogy will end with the title Lesser Evil. Drew, as a Thrawn book reader, please tell us more about this.
So I have to say, I'm really shocked they did this. Why? It's really interesting to me. The second novel has not been released yet, and they already go ahead and give us like a cover and name for the third one.
They just want to get it over with.
I found that very interesting, and it's going to be released on November 16th.
Mm-hmm.
So towards the end of the year, we'll be getting the finale of this trilogy. The first one is okay.
Wow. How could you?
It's fine. So we'll see where it goes from here. Maybe it'll be a little more exciting. But what I do think could be interesting about this trilogy is if it ends up, some of what's going on in it has important implications for what we see of Thrawn in the future of Disney Plus series.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm hoping some of this all ends up tying together. I hope that's what they're doing with this, and it's not just gonna be backstory, because backstory is fine, but like I'd like for this to have a little more meaning than what we truly realize.
Well,
right
again,
now.
like what's the point if it doesn't lead into what we're gonna see in the future? Then what's the point? You know what I'm saying? Because people love Thrawn. I know there are people who really love Thrawn, but at the end of the day, having an entire trilogy of just his backstory what does it lead to? Especially if we're gonna get him as he's older, from what we've ever even seen. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. That is a weird way to do it, for sure.
Yes, it is. My recording program here is doing something weird. I hope we're okay.
Oh, brother. We've been having some issues with it in the past.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to pause it really quick, and then we're going to just keep going. But I just want to make sure and see if anything is messed up. Okay. So hold on a second, everyone. Just sit right there. Sit tight. We'll be right back. I think we're back.
And just like that, ladies and gentlemen, with the power of technology, with a snap of a finger, we're back.
It's still not running smoothly. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, so hopefully the audio is not glitched up.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Well, so anyway, let's just go ahead and proceed on as if we're fine.
Yeah.
Might as well. So bring us to our final news piece, my good man.
I would love to. That would be so great.
Go ahead.
So we're going to
go ahead and get her doing it. It would be so great.
We got a new audio original coming, and this
Wow.
is going to be set during the High Republic, debuting this fall, called Tempest Runner. And this is going to be focusing on a Nile villain. So it's a story about one of the villains from the Nile, and it says that it's one of the leaders amongst the Nile. She's always looking over her shoulder for threats, either from the Jedi or the Nile themselves. And this will be written by Kevin Scott. So that guy's really busy. He's doing a lot of different things with Star Wars.
Clearly, yeah.
I wish they were just writing another novel. Why do they have to keep making these audio originals?
You're just so biased against audiobooks.
I am. I know I'm biased, but it's just like now I'm gonna have to either listen to it or I'm gonna have to wait until they finally release a script for it. And like if they're gonna do this, at least just release the script at the same time. Jeez.
Come on.
Now I gotta.
Come on, people.
Now I either have to. Now
he actually has to do something he doesn't want to do. Come on.
I know, it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. So, anyways.
Oh, boy.
It's fine, I guess. But
it's whatever.
It's whatever.
Some people really like audiobooks.
Yeah, whatever.
So. You're not the only person who likes Star Wars stuff.
What's your thoughts on it? Are you going to listen to it?
I couldn't care less. I figure if it's good enough, you'll tell me, and I'll probably get into it. I have no desire. Honestly. I mean, if I'm going to be honest about
all of that, and then what's your thought? Couldn't
No, I literally, I just like making you feel uncomfortable or whatever, or calling you out. You're the resident book person. I mean, good grief.
This isn't even a book. It
sort of is.
It's an
audio book.
I don't even know why. Okay. Why is something called an audio book when it's not even being released in book form first?
It's not my problem. Something for bigger brains to figure it out. I don't know.
It's an audio.
It's audio drama.
Okay, I can go with that title, but they're calling this an audio book
because it's a book, but they're just reading it out loud. It's just like a bedtime story. Come on, man. So anyway, we can go harp on this all day, but or at least Andrew could. But yeah, I mean, regardless, I think it's cool that they're still getting more stuff out there, and the fact that it's a villain story, that's kind of interesting too, and it's going to give us a neat introspection into this other side that we haven't heard yet. So it's going to be pretty interesting. So we're going to move on to our rumors now. We have a couple more on those. So very first is Sebastian Stan the man, shuts down rumors that he would or will play young Luke Skywalker. So I'm just going to say right off the bat, in previous episodes we have talked about how he was so open, and then all of a sudden he's shutting it down. Every single time that's ever happened, that means that somebody's doing something with Disney. Every time that they've acted like that, they've wanted to do it, and all of a sudden now they're so against it, it's because Disney's telling them, oh, act like you're against it because we want to make it a surprise to some degree. I'm not saying that is what's happening, because it's just a rumor, but it seems like that's happened more times than not, especially with the Mandalorian series. So, what do you think about that? He didn't hear me. I put him on the spot because I know he didn't hear me. I'm going to do it every episode until you stop doing this. So, basically, like a 3-year-old, I'll repeat myself, Sebastian Stan doesn't want to do this anymore, although he wanted to before. So that means most likely, as we've seen in The Mandalorian, he probably, are you following? He probably is doing it because...
When did we go to rumors?
What are you talking about? You gave us the last... People... I can't work with anybody who wants to audition for another co-host position. Someone who's actually going to listen to the stuff that we say. Oh my God. Good grief.
Oh man.
So we're on rumors.
It's been a couple weeks.
We're on rumors, and we're on the first one. So
that's great.
So what are you?
You're doing a great job. Man.
So just forget anything I've said because you didn't hear anyway. So just.
Oh, by the way, we're not looking for another co-host.
I don't know. Are
we?
Clear. Are we not? I might be.
Well, okay.
You heard that. So anyway,
yes.
What is your thoughts on this first rumor here? I'll let you read it because I don't know that you heard it.
No, I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
I think that Sebastian Stan cannot tell anyone he's playing Luke Skywalker if he is playing Luke Skywalker.
Exactly.
So it's just like all these other ones. He's gonna just bold-faced lie to people until it's official.
What a liar.
I mean, it's just the truth, right? I mean, they all do it.
Yeah.
Ewan McGregor did it forever about coming back as Obi-Wan Kenobi. So
and that's my point. If they're so like, oh yeah, I'll do it, all of a sudden snap a finger, no, I'm not doing it. Like why?
Yeah.
What was the change of heart? So, yeah, most likely that means that there's probably something going on. And not to say that it's a full-on he's coming back as Luke, but it's very possible that something's happening if he's changing his tune so quickly like that. So, it would be interesting. I mean, I've talked about it last time. I think he's close enough to pull it off, but they'd have to use a little studio magic. But, I have some deep-seated feelings about people reprising Luke and all, but I'd be up for it, I guess. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I'm in full support of him becoming Luke Skywalker. So I think if this is just a trick, I get it, whatever. But let's make it happen.
Hurtful. Yeah, I mean, if we're going to go this far into it and everybody's talking about it and he's made comments on the affirmative and the negative,
because
good grief at this point, we got to get
here's
something.
My take is like, Mark Hamill can't be Luke Skywalker permanently. He cannot continue to be Luke Skywalker. So we have a decision to make. Mm-hmm. We either give up the character of Luke Skywalker and move on forever, or we start to cast these characters with different actors. And you can say, well, with Han Solo it didn't work very well, and we've talked about that before. Trying to mimic Harrison Ford is very difficult. Mm-hmm. Mark Hamill, on the other hand, it's a little easier. He's more. I mean, like, I love Mark Hamill, but his acting was not anything crazy.
It didn't
in those
stand
movies,
out
right?
from any other person.
And
really.
Exactly. And so you get somebody like Sebastian Stan who looks very similar, and I think he's going to be able to kill the role. I really do. I think he'll do awesome. I said kill. Wow. I meant that in a good way.
That is
not a bad way.
Very ominous.
I think he can go in and really make a good Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
If they choose to do that. But they do have that decision. They brought in Mark Hamill that one time at the end of The Mandalorian, and they used Mark Hamill for that, and I thought that was great. I think it made sense. But if we're gonna see Luke Skywalker in a bigger role now again, and see him throughout multiple different series, etc., then you're gonna have to cast somebody,
right? Yeah,
because Mark Hamill, you can't just continue to use Mark Hamill's body with a digital face. It's just not gonna work if you're gonna actually start using him a lot.
No, I completely agree. I mean, and like I said, and what you can get away with to some degree is that Luke, his character he's supposed to be a bit of an everyman, right? Like, everybody can relate to, everybody can understand him. Like, Han Solo has very unique attributes. He's the bad boy. He has da-da-da-da-da. But Luke is supposed to be kind of like the underdog, right? He's just the kid who grew up wanting to go to Tashi Station. And now all of a sudden, he's been chosen by the Force, and although he's an underdog and he has no experience, he's slowly getting up there and he's being trained, and also everybody can relate to that. So the point is that I do think that, especially since it's been so long since we've seen a young Luke in real life or live action or whatever, they probably could use a little studio magic and people will be a little more forgiving. So yeah, that's it from all my thoughts on that. So
yeah, we'll continue to update you guys on that as we go, but I mean, I'd be curious to see what some of your thoughts are on that. Do you guys think that Mark Hamill should that role of Luke Skywalker is for Mark Hamill only, or are you guys open to seeing somebody else take that role on? Let us know.
Right.
But moving on, going back, talking about the Kenobi series a little bit more. One of the actresses that is joining is, as we said earlier, Moses Ingram, and she had a little something to say about that. She posted a picture of herself, and she said, "I play with lightsabers."
People just can't help themselves, can they?
They just can't.
They just can't help themselves. They just can't. Disney is just like shaking the cage. Hey, what are you doing? No, for real though, that is very interesting, and that can lead into a lot of different things. We talked about possibly a younger Ahsoka, flashbacks, whatever, right? Perhaps an Inquisitor. Perhaps it's not even Inquisitor, but it's one of the basically the Jedi hunting team. It could be a lot of different things, but the fact that we're going to see some,
or she's just being silly, or
she's being dumb,
just,
and she's not. She's just. Oh, I'm part of Star Wars now,
Yeah,
so I play with lightsabers.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
exactly. So it could just be that too, something to throw us off, or again, just something to be funny. So, but again, if that does indicate that her character does, that could open to a lot of really interesting possibilities, though.
Yeah, it could. And of course, the two leading ones, like I was saying earlier, is it could be a younger Ahsoka, because if you can't really use Rosario Dawson as a young Ahsoka, it's not really going to work. I mean, they could potentially make it work, but I say you just cast someone younger for it, right?
Right.
And then you have one of there was a specific one I think they were saying that she might be from the Inquisitors, but I can't remember which one people were really thinking it could be. But anyways, it could be even a new one, right? Like, it doesn't have to be.
Yeah,
we still don't know how many Inquisitors there are. There's apparently quite a few, because it goes up to like the 12th or something that we've heard of. So.
Yeah, we've only seen a handful of them.
Yeah.
So it could be even a new one for sure.
So it could even be a new one. And like I've said, I really hope we see Kenobi go against some other lightsaber.
Oh yeah.
Like, I want to see some of that lightsaber battles with Obi-Wan Kenobi again.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
whether we get that, I'm sure we'll get some kind of Darth Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi rematch. We expect that, right?
Well, even Kathleen Kennedy said the rematch of the century,
true.
or whatever. So,
but I think that it would be cool to see some Inquisitors go after Kenobi.
Right.
It just makes sense with the story. It makes sense with if anyone's going to find out Kenobi's location, they send Inquisitors after much less. You would think they would definitely send them after Kenobi.
Oh,
right?
yeah, absolutely.
And we continue to hear about this clone group that might be coming. Maybe they have lightsabers. I don't know. But
who knows?
But I don't think that she would be a part of that.
Right.
That doesn't really make a lot of sense. So
right. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Pretty cool things there. Again, it could just be her saying, I like lightsabers because I might be a part of Star Wars. So
good.
I guess we'll find out.
We'll find out. With everything here, we'll eventually find out.
We'll eventually find out. So. All right. So our second to last rumor for this week is about the Bad Batch. And we've already talked about it to some degree, but the Bad Batch composer that we were speaking about earlier, who's going over the soundtrack for this season, he teases a new standout character. So Drew has a better definition of what that means for us.
Yeah, so this is interesting. Again, the composer of Bad Batch is talking here, and talking about a new standout character that is going to stand out for years to come. And this character has their own theme, the full thing, right? So the question has been, who is this new standout character, and have we already seen this standout character in the trailers? One that people are really talking about here is the character Omega. Have you noticed this character?
I guess not. I'm not familiar.
So, this is the blonde-headed child in the Bad Batch trailer.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Actually, I remember that.
That appears to be a recurring character that's going to be in the series.
On a side note, I could possibly see it be Fennec Shand as well, because we already know her. She's in Mandalorian quite a bit. She's in Bad Batch, and so there's that distance of time that they kind of have to make up. So I could almost see her being a part of a lot of different things too, because she's kind of been a bigger character. But yeah, so I don't know. The fact that they're going to create some character or use something that's newer, but man, to like use them a lot in the future and to give them their own theme song and everything, that's a pretty big deal. That's a pretty big deal that's going to echo out through a lot of different Star Wars mediums in the future. So
yeah,
that is a big deal. Of course, we have no idea who it is, but whatever.
But the assumption right now is that this Omega character is a female version of the Jango clones.
I've heard that. Yeah, actually, now that you say that, I have heard that.
We don't have any official confirmation of that, but if you look at her, she looks very similar to the clones, except she has blonde hair. But she is clearly stationed at the Camino facility, and her facial features are very similar to that of the clones as children. So I think that's a safe bet.
Well, I'm looking on Screen Rant, and they have the thing that says Star Wars: The Bad Batch wants to introduce Omega, whose name and appearance suggest that she's the final clone trooper made from Jango Fett's template. So,
And that it ended up being a female?
I guess, yeah. And then they say Bad Batch themselves are elite clone commandos with mutations, or in Echo's case, cybernetic modifications that make them particularly formidable. If Omega is the last clone of Jango Fett, she also has a mutation or modification that sets her apart from her brethren, which could be that she's a female. So I don't know, honestly.
I mean, it's kind of an interesting...
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an interesting plot
concept.
point,
So,
whether
like,
it's the...
So let's say if she ends up in live action one day, are they going to use
Mocap Tamira Morrison as a little
Tamira
schoolgirl?
Morrison? They're going to make Tamira Morrison put a wig on and a dress and
Yes, I hope
and
so.
play her.
I really hope so. I really hope so.
You know what I mean? Like,
What is the
because it's a
precedence
clone.
on
So like, how does that work?
Oh, yeah. Well, and then you also have Daniel... Blah, blah, blah,
yeah.
that plays the...
Yeah.
plays Boba
Maybe they'll
Fett.
put him in a wig.
Who knows?
and-
Yeah, put him in a wig. Yeah, so... I think it would definitely be interesting to see.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. So I also saw some people saying, well, maybe this is a clone of Palpatine. Get out of here. Take a walk.
It doesn't stop for you people, does it?
It just never ends with you, does it?
It's never enough.
It's never enough.
It's Omega Skywalker.
Omega Skywalker.
Get out of here. Take Ike.
Yeah. So.
Excuse me. Anyway, getting excited.
That'll be interesting to see where that. I'm interested to see where that whole story goes.
Right.
I will say from the trailer, I think now more so than ever, I do believe that they're keeping a similar tone to Clone Wars. We talked about how maybe it would end up being darker, but I don't think so. Not based off what I saw.
Yeah, probably not.
And they have their typical child tag along now,
which is a little disappointing in my opinion.
You know,
but...
Clone Wars had it, Rebels had it. Now this has it. Now you can argue that people ended up growing to love every single one of those, Ahsoka and Ezra.
Oh yeah, sure.
And sure, there's a lot of people that ended up liking them, so maybe we'll feel the same way about this child character. But I do think though that like this is going to remain that very family friendly, lighthearted, goofy sometimes.
Yeah.
With darker tones as well, but I
Yeah.
don't think they're completely getting rid of that side of it. For this show,
which with the story plot, it just to me it just only makes sense to be darker, but it is what it is, and only time shall tell.
The story that they're telling should be pretty dark, right?
You would imagine,
and maybe it will get darker than Clone Wars sometimes, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. So, all right, you want to take us off with our final?
Yeah. So our final rumor is one that I kind of expect.
Yeah, me too.
I don't think this would be surprising, but this rumor came out today, they're saying that there's now been a couple of sources saying that Din Djarin will make an appearance in the Book of Boba Fett.
I have no qualms with that. I mean, I kind of expected it as well.
Well,
so.
and you have to remember when Kathleen Kennedy got up on stage and was talking about the shows, she said the next chapter of this story was going to be in December, which now we know it was the Book of Boba Fett is what she was talking about. And if that's the next chapter of this story, it makes sense that Din Djarin, who is arguably one of the biggest characters of this story they're telling, is going to be included in that in some way.
Well,
now, is he going to be in every episode? I doubt it. I don't think he's going to be in every episode.
No, me either.
But I think, will he show up at some point? Yeah, probably.
Well, I mean, especially towards the beginning, depending on how the story time pans out linearly, is that basically at some point they're going to have to touch on the fact that he leaves Din Djarin, Mando, and goes off and back to Tatooine. because there for a while, like he was kind of like indebted to him after he gave his armor back to be with him and help him and blah blah blah. So I mean, yeah, I mean, there's a very natural, and they went on several missions together, all this stuff. So I mean, it's only natural that there's a kind of a transitory point in which he moves from being with them to this new crime lord, and secondarily, he's a Mandalorian, or Din Djarin's a Mandalorian and a bounty hunter. So it's like, who's to say that once he sets up his little empire, that he doesn't come back and get some more bounties or whatever, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, to me, I feel like it's expected that he's in it, but I don't think he would be in it like more than just a couple times. Because they're wanting this to be a book of Boba Fett. It's Boba Fett's story, not Din Djarin's.
Yeah, and we've talked about it before, but like I'm hoping we get some flashbacks throughout Boba Fett's life and through different times. I think we'll definitely continue to progress the current story as well that we're seeing through the Mandalorian. But I would like to see some of that also, like showing what he had been up to in those that big span of time, right?
Right.
So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Do you have anything else to say about that?
I do not.
All right. Well, let's jump into our releases. And so our releases for this week is we have Star Wars Bounty Hunters. The next issue of Star Wars Bounty Hunters will be out on Wednesday. That is all we got.
Wow, a little slim pickings, baby.
Slim pickings for now, but things are. We just got this past week. We just got the 2 newest issues of the High Republic. So we got like the main one, and then we also got the Adventures one, and we also got the Dr. Aphra novel or of the audio book. So it just now came out. So I'm going to start reading that. And we also got the autobiography, or not autobiography.
Really? Wow.
Biography. Of the Skywalker family.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of cool too. So actually a lot of stuff came out this past week. And I also want to mention this. I just finished, as I was headed back from vacation, I just finished the last book in the Alphabet Squadron trilogy.
Nice.
Which was called Victory's Price. Wow.
Pretty good?
Very good.
Nice. Awesome.
What an awesome conclusion to that story. Like the first one I was like a little on. The second one, it got a little more interesting, but man, the third one just knocks it out of the park. And really just wraps it up really well. I would encourage you guys to read that trilogy if you haven't, especially if you're a fan of like if you really like space or like combat and stuff. There's a lot of that in it, which actually I'm not a huge fan of reading about that, but like if you'll love this even more if you are into that. If you're into just like the dark, gritty realism of war, you're getting a lot of that here. And Alexander Freed is really good at telling just like boots on the ground war stories, right? Like it just, and what that's like for them. Like, Star Wars so much gets into the fantasy of it all, but like he gets more down to the nitty gritty of like, what's it like to live life as a soldier, in
that's
these
a pretty
wars.
Unique perspective.
Yeah. And he's done that in a couple different novels, but like this whole trilogy is dealing with that, and it's really good stuff. And also this story has a lot to do with kind of following where Hera is at in this time. And so that's also cool to see. So like if you're a Rebels fan and you want more of Hera, this is the most information we're getting out of Hera in her timeline. So like there's some really good points there with her and kind of seeing where her story might continue to go. So I just wanted to mention that like it's really great stuff, and I highly encourage you guys to pick it up.
Yeah, awesome. All right, so we are going to go ahead and move into our Q&A section. As you all know, we put posts on Facebook and on Instagram asking you all to ask us about questions, topics, whatever you want to talk about. Even if it's just like a subject matter, we can talk about it. If it's a question that's you want to ask, whether it seems super simple or super hard or whatever, We want to answer it. We want to talk about it. So we're very thankful and grateful for those of you who continually give us some stuff to talk about. But this week, we have 3, and we have 1 left over, so the next one will be put into our queue for next week. So their first one is from Brandon Dukes, who is giving us a very classic meme. What about the droid attack on the Wookiees? So obviously, I think it's just kind of a joke. It wasn't really a true question, because it is a meme. But I figured just for a quick, just for the fun of it, we could talk a little bit about the droid attack on the Wookiees and how actually it could be a pretty pivotal moment in the Star Wars story. Obviously, this meme and this exact quote comes from Ki-Adi-Mundi, who is on the Jedi Council, of course, and he brings this up during a council meeting. And he is on a mission, I believe it was in Megiddo or whatever it's called. So he couldn't go help out the Wookiees on Kashyyyk. So that spurs Yoda to go and help them, of course, which is a very, very big plot point. And so Yoda would not have been at the temple during the time of Order 66 attack. So very interesting how that played out. And who knows, maybe it was coordinated by Palpatine all along. I guess we really don't know much about that. Another interesting thing to think about as well is that after the Empire took over, the Wookiees actually ended up becoming an enslaved race or species of people. Yeah. So what's actually interesting to think about is that the droid attack on the Wookiees, maybe it weakened them so much it left them susceptible to the Empire's control. So interesting thing to think about. So, our second question, which is a question, is from Kristen Perry, who says, it's kind of an odd one, but do you think that the Jedi would be allowed to have pets if they have proven themselves to not have attachments? I have a pretty specific thought on this, but Drew, what do you think?
So, I think you could say that some Jedi do have pets. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that's against. I honestly don't know if they have any against. If they have rules against that. I mean, you could say. You could say that kind of like how she's saying you can't have attachments and all of that. Mm-hmm. They wouldn't be allowed to, and I guess that makes sense. But I know at least in the High Republic they could have pets. Sure. And maybe as time goes on and we get into what we know, from the prequels, right, maybe then they that was something they couldn't have anymore because
become a little more dogmatic in their beliefs.
I can't think of anyone that had a pet.
No, the closest thing that I can think of was the owl that followed Ahsoka, but again, it was the owl that was following her,
and
which
Ahsoka,
is kind of the essence of,
she didn't really.
Yeah, it wasn't like her pet. You just kind of followed her around. It was a representation of the sister in the Force. But anyway. So yeah, I personally can't think of a specific instance when a Jedi's had a pet either.
I think the High Republic is a little more loose on relationships and stuff, and so I would say maybe that when they kind of tighten their grip on the whole no possessions and no attachments, that maybe that's when pets kind of were out the window. What I do think is interesting though is they all get droids, and I feel like they do grow attachments to their droids.
Yeah, I have something to say about that, but go ahead. Sorry.
Well, it's just Anakin and R2D2. I mean, obviously Anakin greatly, deeply cares for R2D2, and the Jedi seem to be completely okay with that.
So I have a two-parter. I have my main answer, but this is a sub-answer that just I thought of because you mentioned this, right? So the droid is a good answer, but the way that they mitigate this is because every single mission, the main purpose. Well, let me see what I'm going to say first. Every single mission that they go on, they wipe the droid's memory, or they're supposed to. I think the primary purpose is to make sure that the droids, if they ever get destroyed or captured by the enemy, doesn't have vital plans and things of that nature. But I do think to some degree when you wipe a droid, it can't form this personality that we see in C-3PO and R2-D2. And of course, Anakin never did that. And of course, Anakin did end up falling to the dark side. But the point being is that that was one thing that he's always kind of flexing and bending the rules. And he did sort of have this attachment to R2-D2 because he never wiped his memory bank, and it formed this kind of bond with him because it has this a little personality. So, moving to the broader question, though, you talk about, can Jedi have pets? So I will ask this broad question to you at home. What is the purpose of a pet? Well, in my opinion, it's either one of two things. It is either for companionship and attachment or for utility, such as like a canine, rescue dog or a guide dog for a blind person. So having a pet for companionship and attachment literally goes against, what they say. So that wouldn't be, they wouldn't allow you to have a pet for that reason because, what if a Sith or what if one of the enemies held your pet hostage? Well, that's going to be an attachment that you have. But secondarily, we talk about having pets for utility. Well, the Jedi don't really have a need to have like specialized animals follow them around, but also anytime that we go to specific circumstances in which an animal can be used, then they utilize the Force to connect with them, as we see through Ezra. I think we see in the Clone Wars a couple times, maybe with Anakin or Obi-Wan. I can't remember off the top of my head, but we see them utilize animals for their benefit through the Force in specific circumstances where they naturally occur. They don't have a pet for that purpose along with them. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So just my opinion, I don't think that they would ever have pets or be allowed to have pets because they wouldn't be able to have them for attachment and they wouldn't need them for a purpose. So that's my thoughts on that. Anything else you want to add to that before we move on?
I think it's good.
Okay, so our third and final question for this week comes from Miss Ava Patton, who goes to our church's school and a friend of Kristen's. Very thankful for the question. She says, and this is a really good question. This is actually something I was just talking about with somebody the other day, so it's really appropriate. How do you think that Darth Vader was able to use the Force through all of his robotic appendages? Because the Force only moves through living things. Or did he just use the remaining pieces of his organic body? So fantastic question, first of all. That's really good. So yes, you're absolutely right. The body or organic material, living things, is a conduit for the living Force. So that's why robots can't use the Force, right? Because they're not living. So this is the problem for Darth Vader. He loses his limbs. He loses other parts of his body. So therefore, a big majority of his organic living tissue on his body is now cut off. And also we know that as much as many times we hate it, the Force is measured through midichlorians. And then now he doesn't have as much blood flowing through his body, so therefore probably less midichlorians. So the point is that yes, he is able to utilize the Force because he still is human. Now, he has cybernetic components, but he still is human. He still has a core body and a head and all this stuff like that, so the Force can move through him. But it is theorized that Darth Vader was actually a lot less powerful than he could have been if he wasn't dismembered, because there's such a significant less amount of organic material on him that could be used as a conduit for the living Force. What do you think on that?
I don't know. I don't necessarily know that I think it matters how much you have, because if you go by that, then the bigger you are, the more Force you would have, right? Well,
and I do think it's dependent on how much, because you can be huge, but if you don't have the midichlorians, then it doesn't really matter.
Well, exactly.
Right?
I think that the M count, as they like to call it now, because they don't want to actually say midichlorian and make people mad. I think that appears to be the one of the most important aspects of this, and is the M count. And that kind of goes to show how much you have. Now, yeah, like with you, like how could Vader use it? You have to remember that, like, when Vader stretches out his hand and uses the Force, the Force isn't technically coming out of his hand, right? Mm-hmm. It is at least in my mind, the Force is kind of just like, they move the Force in a sense, right?
Yeah.
They're moving it more so than something coming out of them. They're moving something that's already there.
Right.
It kind of.
They're able to manipulate the Force that surrounds everything.
That surrounds them.
Yeah.
More so than something coming out of them. And so it to me, a lot of where the Force is, I think kind of has to do with like in their mind, right? Mm-hmm. I think their mind is one of the most powerful aspects of making the Force move. Now, the blood, of course, is the M count, which is I assume is in the blood.
Well, they take blood samples of
Yeah,
Phantom Menace to measure that.
So of course that plays a heavy role in it, but I think it also in with the mind as well. So with Vader, he has, how much blood does he have in him? And if he did have all his limbs, would he have more blood? Would that make the M count higher? I don't know.
Well, like I said, and that's why it's kind of a theorization. We really don't know.
And
that.
so when you look at it that way, maybe if he had all of his limbs and everything was normal, there would maybe be more blood, and would that make the M count higher, or does the M count stay the same no matter what?
It is. I guess what is the source of the M count?
It's a very scientific.
I think the issue is, and I think that's a great discussion. That's not even the question. I kind of brought that up, and I'm realizing like, okay, we're getting derailed here.
What was your question?
The original question was, how does he use the Force with all his robotic appendages? Is it because the Force only moves through living materials?
No, well, I think I kind of answered that.
We did. I'm saying we kind of debased
it.
Yeah,
like he's not the Force isn't coming from that robotic hand.
Right.
He's moving the Force or manipulating the Force.
Right.
But it's not because of that.
Right. At the end of the day, only living things can manipulate the living Force. Right. And the fact of the matter is, while he does have a lot of his appendages and stuff cut off, he still is a living thing, right? A living person. And that's pretty much the long and short of it. We can probably talk a lot more on the theory about the Force and where it comes from. But anyway, Ava, I hope that answers your question. Kristen, Brandon, great questions, fun stuff to talk about. We, again, are so very thankful for everybody who has continually given us stuff to talk about every single week. I know it probably taxes you guys a little bit, and we apologize for that, but we're very thankful for that. It is an integral part of our podcast, and I think it is one of the better parts of it, of course. So thank you for that. We appreciate your continued support, and we appreciate you guys. But without further ado.
Yeah. So again, thank you all so much for supporting us. Just a reminder that May 4th is Star Wars Day. We're going to be having a big Star Wars Day celebration live stream that you'll be able to catch on Facebook. So make sure that you go ahead, set your calendars for that. We don't have an exact time yet, but we'll keep you guys in the loop about that as we get closer. But we want to thank everyone so much for the support. You can go check out our GoFundMe. We would love your support there. Also, our merch store. We have some t-shirts there if you're interested. Please go like and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for weekly news, polls, discussions, and more. Also, go follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Leave a review. And also our YouTube. We leave our YouTube out a lot, but we do have a YouTube. You can go and we do not have video content yet, or we have a couple videos on there, but we don't have consistent video content yet, but we hope to soon, and you will be able to find all of that on our YouTube, as well as this podcast in audio form on YouTube as well. So, but until next time, may the Force be with you, and we thank you for joining the Jedi Eternal.